Hello and welcome to the Switch RPG Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gio, and I'm joined by Just Johnny. How are you doing, buddy?
Yo, what's up? I'm doing good.
You're doing good, doing good. Look at you all proud of that shirt today.
Metroid.
Nice, nice. I love my shirt as well.
Yes.
I got the Larian Studios shirt here.
Yeah, I could have guessed that this time.
You could have guessed it, yeah. Well, we're not going to say why we... Okay, this is our second attempt at this. Anyways, if this is the first time listening, this is a show from SwitchRPG.com where we bring you all the latest in the world of RPGs on the Nintendo Switch. This week, we have quite a bit of news here. Actually, when I was putting together this news, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be struggling for news here. I just thought it was kind of a slow news week.
It was,
but
it wasn't.
But it wasn't. It really wasn't. You just gotta look. You gotta do your thing.
You gotta dig.
You do have to dig. Yeah. But first, what are you playing?
What have I been playing? I got back into Fire Emblem.
Why?
Because I haven't beaten it yet.
Oh, you still haven't beaten that thing?
So funny enough, I started that game and went crazy into it. Probably 80 hours into it.
Okay.
And completed part 1. And it took me 80 hours.
Wow.
Because I go crazy when I deep dive into a game like that.
Uh-huh.
And then my girlfriend started it, and she beat it 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
So she beat it before you did.
She beat the game. She started after I did and beat it before I did.
That's crazy.
And she's never played a Fire Emblem game before. She absolutely loves it.
Yep.
And she is playing New Game Plus as we speak. As we speak, she's playing New Game Plus.
Wow. How many hours did it take her for her first playthrough?
I think it was right around 100.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think my first playthrough was around maybe 65, 70 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of didn't really pick up too many party members. You didn't recruit.
I didn't recruit all of them. I think I recruited maybe 3 or 4 additional crew members, students.
I recruited all of them except for 2.
Yeah. So you went a little more all out.
I like to min-max.
All right. Apparently, you have options.
Although I didn't min-max as hard as I could.
Oh, so
that was on the first run.
You
too.
are a slacker.
Yeah, I know.
You are a slacker. Unbelievable. So you're doing Fire Emblem. So you got to be relatively close at about 100 hours to completion here.
I'm on. I think I'm on chapter 13 or 14. I'm right around there. I'm still so I know now that the game ends on chapter 22.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 10 more chapters, give or take, to go, and that's probably going to be another 40 hours.
That's incredible. I love these long RPGs, but I like a good kind of, I guess you can call them mid-range RPGs. You know, you got your Dragon Quest and the Witchers and Skyrim, but I don't mind a good 15-20 hour game once in a while.
I love short RPGs. One of my favorite short RPGs is Paper Mario 2, Thousand Year Door.
Yep.
It's probably a 30-hour RPG.
And that's awesome.
And it is awesome, and it's a great experience all the way through.
That is probably one of the better Paper Marios. Yeah. I get made fun of a lot for liking Color Splash. I don't mind it.
I haven't played it. So.
Okay. Well, either way, I like Paper Mario Color Splash. Shoot me. Whatever. I've been playing a new game I've been playing is called Animus. I think we mentioned it last time. It's kind of like a Dark Souls experience. I think that's what I'll call it because visually it looks like Dark Souls. Yeah. But it doesn't play when I say it doesn't play like Dark Souls, it doesn't have... The storyline is as thin as Pokemon Sword and Shield. Or any Pokemon for that matter.
Okay.
There's very little story involved here.
You could argue that Dark Souls is pretty thin, or the Souls games is pretty thin on storyline as well, because it's not...
You're right.
There's lore. Now it's lore dense.
Yes.
Storyline, cutscenes and stuff like that, it's super light.
Yeah, you're right.
Dialogue between NPCs.
And you have to have that lore to really kind of fully understand what's going on in Dark Souls.
So is it lacking lore? Is that what?
It's lacking story. It has no story. It doesn't have lore, and it doesn't really like the storyline is very thin in this game, Animus Harbinger. The first Animus is actually there is a little bit of a storyline there, but basically it plays like Dark Souls where you have to learn the enemy's movesets, dodge. When you have dodge, you have invincibility frames, and it's kind of a boss rush game.
Yeah, it looks like it's one of those. Ooh, that is audio. It looks like it's one of those. Let's see here. I'll turn off that. One of those mobile. It is ported over to the Switch.
It is a mobile. It is from the mobile universe.
Yep.
There's Animus, there's Animus Harbinger, and then Animus Standalone. But right now, I'm currently playing through Animus Harbinger.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at gameplay. Right. Yep.
I think it's a Korean developer.
This looks like it's ripped right out of Dark Souls.
It might as well be.
Yeah,
it might as well be.
I'm looking at these attack animations of this
giant axe.
It looks like a knight that could be from Dark Souls with a big giant axe and very slow animation attacks.
Like it feels like heavy.
Yeah, a lot of weight to it. It looks and the targeting system, it has the same bead of light on the target. Target. This is I don't know why you were like contemplating whether it qualifies as Souls-like or not. This is Souls-like.
Well, I mean, it's almost run as in stages.
Yeah.
It's not one continuous world, so it's a run in stages. So you fight a couple of enemies, and then you get to a boss or a mini boss, and then a major boss. So that's what I mean. Kind of like it's kind of Dark Souls-esque.
Yeah. So it's stagey in order to. So being a mobile game, you can imagine that players remembering where they last left off in a game. This is one that you kind of, when you create mobile games like that, you want to make it more lighter, sort of iterative play sessions, and there could be big giant gaps between these play sessions. You want to make it more level based, more linear type of experience rather than exploring this big giant world. Because when you give full freedom, players want to get immersed. Generally, you want to channel that feeling. So you kind of can't get immersed into a big giant RPG thing on a phone.
Right.
That's one of the sad parts.
I mean, I'd like to see them do a full-fledged console game, but I mean, if you look at the gameplay, I mean, you'd probably be in trouble with the Dark Souls folks from Software.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm looking at this. It doesn't look bad.
It doesn't look bad, and it doesn't play half bad either.
Yeah. Although those big giant button icons, I know we're looking at the mobile version.
Yeah, that's not on there.
Have this?
That's all clean. It's all clean.
What part of the interface does it keep? Does it keep the health bars?
It just keeps health bar, stamina bar.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. All right. And in that case, it does look pretty good. I mean, the icons are a little generic looking, but
yeah. Well, that's the mobile space that you're looking at. But yeah, along with all the other stuff I'm doing for YouTube, that's kind of one of the newest acquisitions, I guess you could call it. So
looks interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
So some quick housekeeping. I want to promote our Discord and some of our socials. So Discord at discord.switchrpg.com. We have quite a number of people on there all the time discussing RPGs and discussing anything really. It's not just specific to RPGs, but we do love our RPGs. Our Twitter is at SwitchRPG. Along with YouTube, it's youtube.com/SwitchRPG. And then we've also launched something new this week. I'm not sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, something new. We have merchandise.
Oh, got the merch.
We got merchandise now, which helps support our site, keeps it ad-free.
And what kind of merch are we talking about?
We got a lot of shirts. We got phone cases, bags. I'm working on hats.
Bags?
Oh, yeah.
Hats?
Everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit out there, along with Patreon. We really appreciate people helping us out with the Patreon. I do have a couple of patrons that I actually wanted to shout out to. We got Hedge Knight Mike. Thank you very much. Sprinklins. Thank you very much. And DJ Atkins.
DJ Atkins.
DJ Atkins is a longtime member of the Switch RPG family. So
he drops the beat and eats the meat. Atkins.
Well, wait. I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see that?
That was
DJ Atkins.
That was very clever.
Yeah.
And you didn't even plan that.
No, I didn't. I just saw the name and I'm like, oh, what do DJs do? They got that beat. And what did Atkins do? They eat that meat.
He is actually a DJ.
There you go.
I don't know if he. I'm sure he eats meat. Maybe I don't know.
Spin the meat.
Spin the meat.
Right.
Well, that's kind of
Try to scratch it. Waka, waka, waka.
Don't scratch the meat.
Don't scratch the meat.
Don't scratch the meat.
Eat it.
Eat the meat.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's get into some news. One bit of news that we skipped over last week because
there was a lot last week.
Yeah, we did have a lot. EA is launching exciting remasters of fan favorites before March 2021.
Yep.
So this is from...
Finally, by the way,
finally,
EA hasn't been doing this.
You know what? EA is on a lot of people's bad sides, so I'm not really... This is probably one of the better news that you'll ever get from EA. So let's, again, from My Nintendo, EA hasn't had the best of luck in recent times, but that could be set to change as the company has stated that it has plans to launch exciting remasters before March 2021. So they do have quite a bit of backlog they could reach into. Yep. One of which is the Mass Effect series.
Yep.
An entire remaster of that would be great.
Yeah,
I played them all, so I'm not gonna.
It could be a little tricky because Mass Effect 1 was Microsoft only. It was, or at least for a good deal of time, Mass Effect 1 was Xbox and PC only.
Right. I don't know that that's ever been released on a Sony product. Now that you're saying that.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember the early Wii U. I know it had Mass Effect 3. I'm just trying to remember whether it had Mass Effect 1 or 2 on the Wii U.
I don't think it ever had 1 or 2. It definitely had 3 because I actually, for some reason, I own that. I never played it on that. I played it on my Xbox, but
yeah, I played them all 3 of them on PC.
Okay.
And 3 was it was extra hard to play on PC because that's when EA decided to drop out of Steam, putting their games on Steam for, what was it, Origin?
Origin, their own gaming platform there.
Their own filthy. One of their many reasons to hate them was the push for Origin on PC. So
yeah, it was that, and then also microtransactions of that nature. This is totally aside.
Giant bucket of
this is aside from the Mass Effect thing, but
and in addition, so there's Mass Effect, beloved stuff, and don't get me wrong, EA has this because they acquired the company that made Mass Effect.
Right, BioWare. Yeah.
And BioWare has made a bunch of other RPGs as well, right? Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire.
Jade Empire? I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good one that I could not get through. I only got through like maybe 5 hours of that game, and I wanted to play more. It was just like distractions.
It reminded me a little bit of Lost Odyssey.
Lost Odyssey?
Is Lost Odyssey. Am I thinking of the right game now?
No, I don't
not.
think so.
No.
Jade Empire was like, it was an action RPG, but not very actiony. It was very slow in the action, and it was kung fu. It was like pure martial arts.
Okay, then I'm definitely not thinking of the right thing.
And it was set in like feudal, Jade Empire days.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But the name says it all.
It does. And the environments, if I remember, the environments are kind of, they would go from like corridor-ish, even though you weren't indoors most of the time. Most of the time you were outdoors, lots of tall grass and whatnot. But it led you down like lanes, corridors, then it would open up to a relatively big space. Was kind of empty-ish because this was an Xbox original Xbox game.
Yeah.
And then there would be lots of enemies that they would throw at you, and you had to explore these. I think there was even like fog, like distant fog to sort of hide the draw distance type of stuff that was going on in that. But it was still a really good game, and it had interesting ways to build out your characters. I never got too far in it, as I said before, but
apparently I don't even remember it.
you get multiple party members, and each one can kind of specialize in different martial arts. It was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look back into that. Yeah. I don't know why I'm misremembering it.
It is always on my list of games to go back to because I definitely remember it fondly. It's just
Another one I'd like for EA to reach, because I think they've got the publishing rights for it, is Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. So I don't know if you consider that kind of like their retro or whatever it is they're calling remasters, but I'd love to see that.
Well, Yeah, they could definitely remaster, right? Bring it up because that release
360
was that on 360.
Yeah.
So it was definitely early days or mid days of the 360, and they could easily take that, make it run at 1080, 60.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Shouldn't be a problem even for the Switch. Should not be a problem, right? It's a 360 game, so as long as they optimize it, you can do it, right? They've done,
and it's a really good game, despite all the bad press it had from the developer. It's a really good game.
Yeah.
And I would love to have seen them expand on that too.
That game was it was sort of like a side effect of their MMO that they were developing, and they kind of took a lot of the assets because they were running low on money and funding, and they kind of spawned off a game, The Reckoning, as like a side thing in order to generate more money to fund the actual game that they wanted to make, which is the MMO.
Right.
And Reckoning, I don't know. I don't think it did that well, but it was well received.
It was well received by the people who actually played it.
Yeah, it was well received, but it didn't do
sale numbers.
It didn't do enough sales numbers. It probably was a decent success, but it didn't do enough to keep the company itself afloat.
Well, the company had all sorts of other issues as well with 38 Studios.
It was a problem of the company, not the game.
Yes,
and
definitely.
They have so EA also has just thinking about some of the amazing franchises that they have that they could bring back. Right, Dead Space.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic. Any of them except for 3, where they put in those silly microtransactions.
That's just a legit scare. That's another one of those scary games.
And they have RPG like mechanics, right? They kind of ripped a lot of those things from Resident Evil 4, where you can kind of build out your gun in a certain way. The guns had their skill trees.
Yeah,
the weapons.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic game. I actually got really far on Dead Space, the original, and haven't beaten it yet. And I have two on my to-do list.
We're building up quite a list for you of games for you to finish.
Yeah.
I actually have another bit of news here that I can't click on because apparently I don't have Twitter set up on my iPad.
I got it right over here.
But I believe it has something to do with Outer Worlds, being released by the next fiscal year, which is by March 2020. So Take-Two calls The Outer Worlds a critical success and commercial success, with sales exceeding expectations, and will be coming to the Switch at some point, again, in the next fiscal year, which ends in March 2020. And
fiscal years, so it says will release in fiscal year 2020. And for just to put that in perspective, most companies, their fiscal year ends either on New Year's Day, Eve, whatever, or on March, the first quarter, because it just makes it a little bit easier for paperwork and whatnot, and also aligns itself a little bit with tax prep work.
Yeah, that's and that's what Nintendo did when they launched the Switch. It was in March, and people were like, "Oh, what?"
And most companies do that. That is a normal thing. So to have Outer Worlds within March, at the latest, the end of March. That's exciting because I definitely, as long as they don't botch it.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, if this game plays well, and it isn't like a blurry mess, and like I said, if it runs well, it'll lead to more success because this game is really, really good.
Yeah, just keep it at 30 frames a second. Don't need 60 for RPG.
Nope.
Definitely don't need it. It's not it is an action RPG, but it's also kind of not really that big of a deal for the action.
First person ARPG. It's like I said, it is very, very good, and it's one of those games where it's like 30 hours. So it's not like your Fallout experience where you're putting in a vast amount of time. This is a kind of a shorter game,
which is great. That's another reason why I'm looking forward to it. And if they have to sacrifice draw distance or the number of objects on screen, foliage, detail, stuff like that, in order to have a higher resolution, please give me the higher resolution too. I want the higher resolution. Sacrifice, give me a steady 30 frames per second, because we all know 60 is just out of the question.
Sure, yeah, I would agree.
But give me that crisp resolution, all right? Give me 900 at the lowest.
Okay.
Just keep it locked in there. Don't do the dynamic stuff.
We're going to write a letter. You want to write a letter to them?
Just please do it.
We're going to write a letter. We're going to mail it to them.
Just I don't need to have like every single individual blade of grass drawn on screen. I just don't need it.
You sure?
Turn it off.
You won't know, I guess, if you're not missing it, right?
They turned that dial down on Zelda in order to improve the frame rate, which was a good decision.
It was a good decision.
Yeah.
It kind of had that minimalistic effect, and it became kind of the art style, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Next, we have a PS4 exclusive. I know we're jumping ship here for a little bit. PS4 exclusive Ys. I don't know. Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, will be released in the West at some point. Now, I just wanted to bring this up a little bit because I really want to play this.
Did you play any of the other Ys games?
No, none, zero of them.
Not even 8. 8 came out on Switch.
I know.
Lacrimosa
of Dana.
Yep.
That game has been $50.
Yeah.
For forever.
I wouldn't say it's worth the $50, but being that it's an overseas game that is hitting a niche audience, I don't blame them, right? Vesperia was also $50.
Right.
Now, I would pick Vesperia over Ys any day of the week, except this is one of the best Ys games to come out in a long time, and I've played some of the older ones. On PC, I think they've released almost all of them. And they have because Ys is a old
I think it's on
RPG.
It's on NES.
It predates the NES.
Predates, okay.
Yeah, I think
so they were playing with like PC. Rocks and sticks, or
we're talking like blocks, like Atari graphics,
really,
like blocks bumping into each other type stuff. Like the very first Ys game. I'll try to dig up the video on that, but and they've been keeping that franchise going. One of the interesting things about it is that the story, I think, focuses on the same character or same set of characters or the same world that a character or set of characters all sort of take place in. So it's all one big giant world that it's following.
So it's in the same universe, and you're just seeing different points.
Angles, or following that same character through multiple iterations. I know it's followed this a particular character for multiple iterations. I just don't know if that was true for all of them. One of the ones I played, and they've ported these games over to multiple consoles. They've remade it on, I think they've remade some of them for the Super Nintendo, also for the PlayStation Vita. And almost all of them are on PC. And one of the ones I played, you kind of go up a massive spiraling tower, and you're just going up higher and higher and higher until you reach the end. And it's like RPG Zelda, but maybe a little bit faster.
I like how you said RPG Zelda.
Yeah,
because Zelda is
it's RPG, like way more RPG. It's like a faster Secret of Mana type game.
Yep.
Just with the combat, and there's platforming elements to it too.
Okay.
And a lot of your abilities, the attacks that you get, and this is just some of these games I've played. I don't know if this is true for all of them, but the abilities and the attacks that you get, you kind of have to use those in order to incorporate into the platforming. So as you unlock new abilities, you unlock progress, kind of like a Metroid.
Right, I was just going to say
not
that.
As elaborate.
Okay, yeah. And with this Ys 9, they're taking their game to a whole new level where it's more of in the same vein as, say, Bayonetta, I guess you could say, where they've added depth. So it's not, I guess, not Bayonetta.
Depth in Bayonetta?
No. I mean, like they've added height to the level design, and like there's different aspects and angles of the game. So it's more of a
updated their engine.
Maybe it's an update of their engine, but I think it's in the article. I'd have to pull it up here.
I have the article in front of us. They got some stuff, but as you're saying, we'll assume that because this is a lot of text to kind of dig through.
So I guess the Ys 8.
Yeah, that engine. It's all right, but you could tell that engine was
very dated.
Yeah, it looks like it's an enhancement of an old PS2 engine. That's what it looks like.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It looks good, though. It looks good for a PS3 game, and I think the game even came out. Ys 8, did that come out on PS3, Jen? In addition to PS4?
I think in Japan it may have.
So you could tell just from looking at it, the engine's a little old, and when they brought it over to Switch, like it was running on 60 frames a second, 1080 on PS4, but on Switch, I think they kept it at 1080, and I think they knocked it down to 30 frames a second instead of going with the full 60. And for an action game like Ys, that's a little bit of a disappointment. Like Tales of Vesperia runs at, I'm not sure about 1080, but it certainly runs at 60 frames a second in combat.
Yeah, I forget where I saw that, but this one is apparently very different from what their normal formula is, where there's traversal, and there's flying in this game. There's a whole bunch of different things.
Different. Yeah, to free the player up on their traversal to have it on a bigger, more meta scale, because none of the Ys games were big meta RPG experiences. They were much more focused on a specific event. They were more event driven and focused on like I said, there was an entire game where you're just scaling one tower,
right?
And you're making your way up to that. You're not going through like different continents, flying airships.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that in this aspect. It's a much grander type of game.
Cool. That has me a little excited.
If I had a PlayStation 4, I'd be more excited, but who knows?
They brought 8 to the Switch, so it's probably only a matter of time to bring this one to the Switch as well. I mean, everyone's jumping on board, so they're probably going to do it.
I hope so.
If they brought Dragon Quest 11 to the Switch, they're definitely going to bring this to the Switch. There's no question about it. It might take a little bit of time.
We can write them a letter too.
Yeah.
We have
do it.
We have quite a bit of paperwork we need to do after this.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork. That's okay.
That's all right. All right. So speaking of coming to the West, we have Arc of Alchemist to launch on the Nintendo Switch. So this one is pretty much a guarantee to come to the Nintendo Switch, in addition to the PlayStation 4. Now, Arc of Alchemist is an idea property. I'm trying to remember.
Got some screenshots going on. Is this So just from the screenshots, it looks like this is an action RPG. I see a little mini map. You're running around a big giant.
It is definitely an action RPG. Yeah. It reminds me of anime Hobbits. That's the only thing I think of when I see this game.
Chibi.
Sure, anime Hobbits.
Yeah.
You call them Chibi. I call them anime Hobbits.
Well, they don't. You can't see I think their feet look like hooves.
Hooves.
Is that right? Yeah, they have like hoof feet. They don't have like real human. Oh, okay. They do have like.
Well, maybe there's some humanoid.
Hobbits. So hobbit feet are way bigger than that, and they're way hairier than that. So you can't say it's hobbit feet. I'm gonna stick with chibi.
Okay.
Although they're not quite chibi.
No, they're not quite chibi. But this is an Idea Factory game and Compile Heart game. This one I think is more G-rated for what Compile Heart does. Compile Heart usually has very risque graphics, I guess you could call it. You would agree.
Because risque sells.
Well, not all the time.
Not all the time, but it does to a few ravenous fans. And
all right, so Johnny will be getting other Compile Heart games, but this one actually does interest me. I know I did call them anime Hobbits, but this one actually looks pretty cool. I like the fact that they're bringing games over that they... Sometimes these guys, they say that they're not bringing it over, but they are.
I'm looking over some of these stats. Attack, got it. N-Def, okay, maybe. F-Def, no clue.
No idea.
It's a defensive something. Whatever F is and N is, interesting.
we may never know unless you tell us. But like I said, the game does look interesting.
Yeah, graphically, it looks all right. Looks pretty good. And this is definitely coming to the Switch.
Yes,
confirmed.
Yes, confirmed.
Yeah, so it's looking all right.
I got the email.
You got the email. All right.
So they said yes, it's coming, and please share these screenshots.
Whoa, hold on.
Wait a minute.
What's this 2019 thing?
Originally released on PlayStation 4 in February 2019.
So it already released in Japan.
Yes, it has been released in Japan.
Yeah, it just released. So in October, it just released in Japan. So it's coming here.
It's coming to the West on the PS4 and Nintendo Switch.
Yep, physical and digital. Okay, it just doesn't give a release date.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Cool.
On the lighter end of news here, I just kind of wanted to share this because I've been wondering the same thing. So a Reddit user took it upon himself. Now, this doesn't take, I mean, anyone could have done this, but a Reddit user took it upon himself to contact the folks who are developing Atlas, Shin Megami Tensei 5. And basically he said, you know, what is going on? Is the game canceled? We're hearing all this stuff. Are you guys still working on the game? And they contacted him back. Typically, you get ignored.
Wait, so they actually responded to a fan?
A fan.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and
I love
usually,
when that happens.
usually there's no response at all because I myself have tried, and you get nothing. So the customer support did contact them back. The game is still being worked on. Any rumors about SMT5 being canceled are made up. Rob Stone, customer service rep, Atlas USA. Where is this game? This game was like announced like when 2017.
They pulled a Square. All right. When they showed up, and they actually pulled a Square, they pulled a Nintendo, they pulled an insert game that took many years of development to do.
Yeah, Metroid 4.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with the Nintendo bit, or even with Breath of the Wild. I mean, they had a trailer, right? Anytime a game is shown or announced, and it's just a CG trailer, expect that game to come out within 2 years or later at the minimum. Like,
right.
It's
they have nothing to show you.
Yeah, they have nothing to show you. It's just a CG trailer. They can make that. That's like a proof of concept thing.
Yeah, right.
Don't trust that type of stuff. So I knew that was going to be far off. It just so happens they showed that before the Switch was out, right? That was like the January. Was it the January before?
I don't know I don't know when it happened. I know it was 2017.
Yeah.
It might have been like the first direct or something.
It was either E3 of 2017 or it was that January before the Switch. It was like the big Switch reveal.
Sure.
It was one of those two things. So this game has been in development for at least 2 years, and they
Possibly
showed off,
longer.
right? And this is 2 years from when they announced. It's
Right.
definitely been in development longer than that, so at least another year or two before then.
Sure.
So-
I mean, what's kind of led to the rumors is that they've just been silent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was one other trailer after the initial one. So there were a total of two,
Yep.
but they've been just radio silent. Whereas with Metroid, you're hearing of job openings. You know who's actually developing it now. I mean, but with this, you got nothing.
I mean, there's probably job openings, but this company is in Japan, whereas Retro, it's easier to find out about their. Oh yeah, this is the second trailer. It's easier to find out about their job openings because they're in America.
Well, I mean, I do keep up with some of this stuff. I would have thought I would have seen something like even with Monolith, with their newer RPG that they're coming up with. It's more of a high fantasy setting. You've seen those job openings,
say.
right? But I mean, there's something.
It's gonna be another Xeno game.
I don't know about that. Maybe
Xeno
it's
something.
Xeno something.
Xeno something.
No, I don't know about that.
Well, they're definitely busy helping out with Zelda because I mean they helped out with Breath of the Wild.
But they have a few studios. It's not just one.
They do.
One single studio.
One studio, the smaller one on Breath of the Wild. The other one, the bigger one, and I believe the numbers they mentioned it for how many people it took to work on Xenoblade 2 wasn't that big compared to like Western development studios.
Really?
It was only like 70 or 80 developers.
Wow.
That core as like the core team was only like 70.
Right. There's always
developers.
subcontractors for the lack of a better word.
Yeah, when they run towards
like
the end of
composers,
development.
like all that other stuff.
Yeah, when they're getting towards completion of a game, they'll really ramp up the hiring and get a lot of contractors. But like the core team that's in it throughout, the many years of development, it was only like 70 or 80 compared to like Assassin's Creed, which is like 1,000.
But I mean,
ridiculous.
With Assassin's Creed, they were trying to keep up with a kind of a yearly release. So their model is very different compared to when you're talking Xenoblade. But yeah, Shin Megami Tensei, they've just been radio silent.
If you ever rewatch the last trailer that they released, you can kind of see elements of ambition within here because it looks like, especially with the opening, when they open up with that train station, that's impressive. So they might be reaching pretty big with this fifth iteration of the game.
That's okay.
No, that's more than okay.
Take your time with it, but don't tease us. And just have nothing.
Well, one tease a year, I'm okay with. I'm okay with being teased often. You know what? I don't care. Just tease me all the way. I'm like watching like anything I can for Diablo 4. Just getting
as am I.
Yeah, you too.
Yes. I watched a recent video of a boss battle. It was really, really cool. I really want it to come out on the Switch. I really doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the Switch's current state, we're not getting Diablo 4.
I mean, for me, it's always got to be PC for Diablo games.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a PC snob. That's okay. So it'll be the Xbox One for me. Or maybe PS5. We'll see where I'm at.
With Diablo, it's all about who I'm playing with.
Okay.
And because the people I'm going to be playing that game with are going to be on PC, they're going to want to play it on PC. Like, it's just by default has to be on PC.
All right. Well, I have no friends. I'll be playing it alone. So on to the next set of news. We have Prey developer Human Head shuts down, but is immediately acquired by Bethesda.
Is that their logo?
That I don't know what that
Human
is.
Head Studios.
Yeah, it looks like something out
that is just awesome looking. I don't know what that is, but that is some cool looking art. It's like this weird antler dude,
and he's got like dog tags or something.
Tags and earrings, all like gold trim.
Mm-hmm. So, like I had said, they're actually they shut down, immediately acquired by Bethesda, and then was immediately put on an unannounced project. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Human Head, they are the developers behind Prey, and Rune. I'm not familiar with The Quiet Man, but Rune 2 is...
All right, The Quiet Man is that... I believe The Quiet Man is that crappy game that Square Enix put out. Isn't it that?
I don't know.
The one with like this just generic looking dude who could like... I guess he had like a little bit of superpowers, or kung fu powers or whatever. Like he was like punching people. It looked graphically looked very realistic.
Okay.
But in execution, the game it released, it did horrible on the reviews.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's like, what their downfall is. I have no idea what The Quiet Man is.
It's a Square Enix game.
Okay. Well,
and it's terrible.
I am familiar with Rune and Rune 2. I would say it's a cross between Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Skyrim.
I'm gonna pull up Rune.
So Rune 2. That's what I remember of them. Is kind of the Zelda. It looks more like Skyrim, but plays kind of like Zelda. Really, it actually looks really, really good, in my opinion.
Yeah. I can definitely see. Oh yeah, Skyrim.
So you can see where Bethesda would be really interested in acquiring this, and it's
their competition.
Not just their competition, but this is something Bethesda needs this. They need something other than Fallout. They need something other than Wolfenstein and Doom.
What they need specifically is to figure out how to do third-person action, because none of the other Scroll games can do third-person action. And I'm looking at this trailer and I'm seeing it's purely third-person action. Elder Scrolls without the name. That's what it looks like.
Without the name, and done. The combat is done better.
Yeah, it looks like it. Just from looking at that trailer, just from looking at the animations, the attack animations, how they connect to the enemies, you can tell that it's just a better. It doesn't look great, but it looks certainly way better, leagues better than the last.
Well, I mean, if you get more people behind it, maybe the polish can be there. I don't know anything other than what I've seen for gameplay. I've never actually played it. But I think this is great for Bethesda. Again, another episode where we mention Bethesda.
Yeah, well, nothing's wrong with mentioning Bethesda. They make a lot of great RPGs.
I just feel like it's just inevitable. And I'm sorry.
Wait. The Quiet Man? Oh, there it is. All right. Because I see a lot of movies called The Quiet Man. So now I have a trailer up of The Quiet Man. And as you can see, like the protagonist is just this generic looking dude with a hoodie. I mean, graphically, it looks very impressive, but it's just
Gameplay.
in execution, gameplay.
Yeah, not quite there.
He's getting hit as he like dodges back out of nowhere. It's just like super bad. I remember watching this trailer in E3 during Square Enix's press conference. I think it was the E3 year and a half ago, and I just saw it. And I'm like, yeah, that's visually impressive. Generic as all.
Oh hell yeah.
And I kind of knew, it was like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be good. Look at that generic.
Yeah, no bueno.
Yeah,
no good.
Silly haircut going on, and like this dude with a suit and like a weird
plague doctor
mask thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, they made that, but I think this is a good acquisition for Bethesda because they need some new blood in there.
They need way more because they're not turning out enough games,
right?
At all,
and especially for the E3 presentation. Like for some reason they have like a headlining day. I don't quite understand why they do when they only have they don't have many titles to really show off there. I don't know.
Yep. Well, and especially this year where all the games that they showed off at E3 and they said that were going to come out this year are now not coming out this year.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know why they have an entire day dedicated to themselves.
Yeah,
but
they delayed the Fallout 76. They delayed Doom Eternal. I mean, it's not looking good for them.
And then Starfield, they're very hesitant to show anything at all.
Yet another Metroid 4.
Right. Where's Starfield? 4. And then they throw candy at you with Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, I mean, another Metroid.
That was literally 4. I don't even know why were you there?
Because they knew they didn't have anything else to show.
They had nothing. They had absolutely nothing.
I guess it's one of those like they have to squat on that scheduled session. They have to like squat down and say that they
need to keep it. Yeah,
they need to keep it going.
But I feel like they just did more damage to themselves, really. But you're right. Maybe when they do have content to show off, they have that day.
If they delivered, and these companies, these bigger companies that want to have their own E3 press conference, they got a simple solution, right? Acquire more developers, and of course, a company that's as big as the one that produces Prey and The Quiet Man, etc. Right? That's a little bit too big. You can't acquire too many of those, especially if you're Bethesda. You have to be a little bit more careful with your funds. But indies, you can acquire like crazy, and you don't even have to acquire an indie. Most indies you just ask them, hey, you want us to publish your game?
Right.
We'll have you featured in our E3 press conference. I would be surprised if any indie turned that down.
Right. I mean, obviously, it would have to be in the same. It would have to be an RPG. I mean, does it have to be an RPG? I feel like it has to be an RPG.
It could be a first-person shooter, right?
Yeah,
their bread and butter is RPGs and shooters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it would have to be in that vein, my opinion. But
yeah,
they need something. They definitely need something. All right, moving along here.
Another Bethesda.
Oh, yes. That was actually back in October. I almost skipped over this. They acquired a mobile game developer, Alpha Dog Games.
Alpha Dog.
And one thing, they're coming out with their, I guess, mobile collection. So they have Elder Scrolls Blades, and then they have Fallout Shelter. Did it say in the article what Alpha Dog has come out with?
Let's see here. Makes sense. Alpha quality of depth. Blah blah.
So they do some. They're known for their real-time strategy game. That's what it was.
Yeah, action. So they made an action role-playing game called Wraithborn.
Okay.
They made a real-time strategy game called Monstro City Rampage.
And I think that's what they're more well-known for.
Let me look up Wraithborn because it has the born part and it has the Wraith part. And I like both words. Both words together could be good.
could be good.
Could be good.
Probably not.
I mean, it's mobile.
But I think that's their next venture. I think they're going to jump into a real-time strategy on the mobile end of things. And who knows, maybe on the console side of things as well. But
Unreal Engine? Okay. Oh,
generic, pretty generic action RPG in Wraithborn.
Yeah, isometric. So Wraithborn isometric.
Are you glad you saw that now? Okay.
Well, let's see how the combat goes. We saw a few swings on a box.
But as I was saying, Alpha Dog is really more known for the strategy or the strategy type of game.
Yeah, clearly mobile game. So it looks like maybe a little bit more towards arena side of things with this game in particular. But yeah, all right.
So they're venturing out. So they're acquiring talents. This is kind of what you were saying with the indie developers. So maybe they are doing that, but more they're keeping their indies on their mobile platforms.
Well, all right. They can't go to E3, and other companies have proven this. You can't go to E3 and show off a bunch of mobile games.
Yeah, because Blizzard took a big hit for doing that.
And they do this. Like, you can show mobile games. You can't just show mobile games.
No.
That's what I'm getting at.
No.
Like, even Microsoft knew that they couldn't announce just the what was it, Gears of War, the mobile
Pop,
game.
or not the Pop.
Gears Pop or whatever?
Yeah,
Gears
I think
of War Pop.
Something like that.
Yeah. They can't just show that. You have to show that game along with all the not real, but like the more hardcore
the console release.
And PC, right? They showed the Gears of War Tactics PC game as well during that same time. So as long as they acquire studios like this, because just looking at this game, like, yes, it's generic looking, but clearly there's talent there. They can produce something, especially on a indie size budget. And they could definitely go to console, what have you, and produce something that's smaller in size, scale, and could be worthwhile.
I agree. So, but they are reaching. They're reaching out.
And also, just an FYI, mobile developers are actually being tapped into pretty heavily by a lot of publishers, a lot of companies, for the purpose of Switch development. That's what I've been noticing.
Okay. It makes sense, right? I mean, there is that sort of mobile mentality. It is a handheld device. So maybe. And you've been noticing that with some other...
Yeah, I mean, remember last week when we talked about Tencent Studios?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they're making comments. They do a lot of mobile development. They port a lot of their mobile games over to Switch. And you see a lot of mobile games in general being ported to Switch. So...
Well, it's a mobile chipset.
It is a mobile chipset,
so
right?
that's where we're at with that.
The good old Tegra.
In the good old Tegra. Right. Gematsu. A big... information dump here.
Yeah.
Big with the new Trials of Mana. I think this is coming out supposedly April of next year.
Yep, the remake. So the full-blown remake of Secret of Mana 3 or Second Detsetsu 3, whatever you want to call it.
Trials of Mana. Okay. April-ish release. Like I said, a big information dump. We got details on a lot of characters, details on classes, details on prologues, and map mechanics. A bunch of stuff here. Now, what I found interesting was the character prologue. So you can, as you progress through the game, you get new party members, and I think there are 7, maybe, or no. I don't know.
I see 3 right now.
You see 3 there. Yeah. There may be more.
I see
I might be thinking of a different game. Either way, as you
dragon with 4 wings.
As you attain new characters, you have the option to either play their prologue or just view kind of a cinematic of their prologue, so you can see what their inspiration is, why are they here, what got them to this point. And I think, was it Octopath Traveler that did a little bit of that, or I didn't really play too much of Octopath. I didn't really enjoy it.
So Octopath was you could replay every character's prologue. So even though you start off with one character, you could play through their story almost entirely, but you're kind of encouraged to pick up more than just one party member. Okay. Otherwise you'd get stomped. So you kind of travel to the other villages and you play their chapter 1 session. You could progress to multiple chapters without picking up anyone else, I mean, you'd have to grind a whole lot.
Be very
but
difficult.
It is potentially possible to sort of go through and pick up only 4, have a party of 4, and kind of beat the game without ever having to experience the remaining other 4 characters. And you could get to the end game and then play the opening chapter, the prologue of those other characters. Yeah. So you could do that. So
that is totally what that reminds me of. But you have like I said, you have the option to skip it, or you can view a cinematic that kind of displays the sort of the same stuff. And it's got a bunch of different new creatures and whatnot. Like you were
spirits. They're going over a lot of stuff here. Yeah. Wow, this is huge.
I don't know if it's too much, or if this is just going to be a really dense game.
Seems like a lot of spoilers.
Right. So if you're sensitive to spoilers, don't look.
I'm not. Some of these screenshots, I mean, this one in particular, or these 2 over here, that screenshot looks to me like a turn-based combat system. We know it's not, but it looks like it.
It does very much look like
perspective.
It. Yeah, I think the perspective is different. It might be sort of like an arena base. So once you get into combat, sort of like they do in Tales. But in Tales of Vesperia,
but the of Mana games never put you in an
arena.
It never teleports you out of the world into a specific arena for combat.
But maybe Tales does though, right?
Tales does.
Yeah. So maybe if they kind of just smooth that transition out to make it, you get into.
I hope they don't do that.
You don't like that at all, or
I hate that.
You don't like it? Okay.
I want to jump into a fight without ever having to be teleported into a combat arena. I hate the combat arena mechanic. I hated it in every single Tales game.
The glass smash break thing. You
entered combat and then you go into like this smaller, generic looking room. That's never been a good thing. I know it's something that they've had to do in games, but for every RPG that didn't do that, I appreciated that much more, like Secret of Mana, like Zelda, like Dark Souls, and whatever. Pretty much all of the action oriented RPGs, they don't do that for good reason. Now, Tales of Vesperia is an action RPG, and they did do that, and that always irked me. But I have high hopes. I don't know if you remember seeing it, but the Tales game that they showed off.
The Abyss is it? No,
the new one. I forgot what the name of it is going to be, but they showed a new Tales game running on
a brand new
engine. Finally,
it looks really, really good,
and it looks fantastic.
Yes,
and I'm hoping they fix that issue. They get rid of the whole teleport to a different. I think they do. I think in the gameplay sequences, it does show off that you see an enemy. You engage in combat, and there's no transition.
Nothing. Yeah, that is perfect. So, like I said, I'll link to this article in the podcast description, YouTube, all of our everything. It is a big information dump. It shows a lot of the main characters dressed as different classes.
This is spoiler stuff. I didn't even know that you could change classes with your characters. And some of these classes that you could change into is obviously going to be spoilers because they show the art. So you can see what the class would look like. You can see each of the characters and all the different classes that they can turn into.
And, just as you change classes, it also affects some of your skills akin to what Fire Emblem does in, this newer Fire Emblem. So when you change a class, a lot of your skills change as well as your progression through stats.
Yeah, but this is a bit different. This looks like a much more deliberate. Whereas Fire Emblem, it's a class-based system where you're always upgrading to a better version of the same class.
Not necessarily. In Fire Emblem, there were some classes that were clearly downgrades to what I currently was, even though in the hierarchy, it seemed like it should be better.
Sure.
But it wasn't always necessarily the case.
Sure, you could think that. You're not a min-maxer.
Oh, no. We're doing this. So, yeah, there's a lot of information. I am very much interested in Trials of Mana.
Yeah.
So I kind of just did read through all of this. So I'll leave it up to you guys. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. I don't think the prologue is a spoilery type of thing. I think it's actually a very, very cool dynamic to this game.
Yeah, I'm. If anything, this has me even more excited for a game that I was already excited for.
Yeah.
This has me more excited.
And if you go to the bottom of the article, it's got some cool concept art, some kind of wallpaper-ish type of stuff that I've already put on my phone, my other iPad, not this one.
They should do this more often, where they take, and we talked about this last week, but they should do this more often, where they take these old school RPGs that and just remake them. Give it the Resident Evil 0 or Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2 treatment. Because they are still fantastic games and have fantastic stories and fantastic characters. If they can do that to games that were just last gen, where they remaster it or remake it slightly.
Yeah, it's almost to a fault though that they're doing a lot of these newer games. Yeah. But something like Trials of Mana, it's to put a whole new it's a reimagining of the game, and it's perfect. I think it'll be good, so I guess we'll see.
And I know they just did it for Link's Awakening, right? Something like that. I mean, Link's Awakening arguably didn't go far enough, but it's also arguably one of the best Zelda games. So don't break what isn't fixed.
Sure. I mean, there are some maybe some quality of life issues that they didn't resolve in it with some of the dungeons. Having to redo an entire dungeon kind of stinks. But there are some quality of life things that they could have addressed.
All right, let's. We got like one more article here, right? We're almost done.
I'm running out of breath.
Yeah.
Never done this before.
This one's a quickie. You want me to get this one? You can rest a little?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so the initial reviews are just coming out for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And right now, I think if you go to OpenCritic, there's like 20 some odd reviews. And the average score right now is 80%.
You're doing that with a face.
Good.
I mean,
great.
80% is really good.
Yeah, it's a great score. However, this is Pokemon.
Yep.
And typically on average, you're at like 85 to 90%, somewhere in between. So this is a little bit below average.
Sure. Okay.
I think people might be a little bit too salty about the National Pokedex stuff.
Get over it.
Yeah, definitely get it over. I mean,
there's too many Pokemon to begin with.
Way too many.
Like, you could just keep going on forever. This isn't, you just can't do it.
They should do mass extinction, just kill off like the next Pokemon game, whatever, because we all know it's not this one.
Just start over.
Well, they don't have to. Like, imagine a story of the next Pokemon game where Team Rocket or whoever it is that's like the big bad is hellbent on eradicating all the Pokemon species, basically pulls a Thanos and poof, like they are going to war against Pokemon. They start slaughtering entire species of Pokemon left and right, and you have to stop that as the player. That would be fantastic.
That would actually be a story I could get into. Whereas this one is just a very thin story where I want to be the very best of I don't even know. They're all the same.
And then they could use that as an excuse to not have a full national dex.
It's in the story, there are way too many Pokemon. But I guess that's not the only complaint that you see out there. Okay, there are complaints about, I guess, some reused assets of older games. There's complaints about frame rate or pop-in issues that people have seen on some leaks or whatever. So I guess there are some complaints about that, but these are people that really haven't played the game. For the most part, people who play the game, the general consensus is they enjoy it.
Yeah, and there's also some of these reviews are they are what's the word? They are stranding pretty heavily towards really liking or really not liking.
So like polarized, they're very polarized.
Yeah, they're Death Stranding a bit.
Don't pull that Death Stranding stuff out on me. But that's getting released, I think, at the time of recording.
Friday,
it's coming out on the 15th. So
I'm excited.
Are you getting it?
Most likely, yeah. Yeah. I want to be the very best.
You want to be the very best again? No. I would love to get this day one. I just don't. Number one, I don't have the time for it. the monies. I mean, I got way too many other games that I still have yet to play through, like Dragon Quest.
Yeah,
I haven't played through that. Link's Awakening, I still have like 5 hours. I'm halfway through that game. Like,
See,
I need to finish my games.
You just already, I already beat that game before it even came out, so I'm good.
I beat Link's Awakening already, but that was on the GameCube. That was like
on the GameCube.
I'm sorry, Game Boy. It was a long
I did
time
beat
ago.
it on the GameCube.
I did not.
I used the GBA adapter.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I guess
slap it on the bottom.
Yep, I guess you could have, but
That
no.
thing was so good.
That was a good.
That's
add-on.
how I play and beat most of my Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games.
Well, I did. I had the Super Game Boy. I did the
with the
Super
Super
Game Boy.
Nintendo.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be getting that right now. Eventually, when I want to catch them all, when I feel that itch to get them all, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. But that's going to do it for news.
Yes.
That was a lot of news.
It was a lot of news.
For a week that I'm like struggling. I'm like, we're never going to find anything. And then look at this. It's incredible. So we have some listener questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to hear from you. Remember, we're all about community here at the Switch RPG Podcast. So if you want to be part of the show, you can email your questions to podcast@switchrpg.com. You can dive into our Discord server. You can talk to us on Twitter. You can talk. There's many ways of contacting us. So we have a question.
Yes.
From Two-While on our Discord. In games where you can name your character, name a character. Jeez, what is going on?
In games where you can name a character,
Thank you.
Do change the character's name. I guess it's do you change the character's name. So it should be like a comma and a word for you.
I think Geo should edit these so they're readable, but I'm sorry.
Right.
Continue.
All right. If the character has no name, but there is a canon name, like Persona 5, Joker doesn't have a name in game, but since there is an anime, he has a name.
I don't know.
Do you use the canon name? If there is no canon name, do you use the default name used? So basically, do we use the pre-built name? Do we try to research if there is a canon name for the character, use that canon name? Or do we just fill in our own name?
Another example of a canon name, except for Breath of the Wild, would be Link. Because typically he's only referred to by whatever you enter in, except for Breath of the Wild, where they actually call him Link.
There might have been a couple of other games. Well, certainly Zelda 2, because that was, what was that one called? Link's Adventure?
Yes. Yep. Zelda 2, Link's Adventure.
Link's Adventure, and the people in town call you Link.
Yeah,
Error.
Error?
I am Error.
I am Error. You might know better than me. It's been a very, very, very long time since I've even touched that game.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think you're entering a name and they just call you, whatever.
And a lot of the, well, maybe not a lot. Earthbound, right? That's one where you could like name your dog.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Yeah,
I don't.
You can name your dog. I'm trying to remember what else you could name, but I know you could name your dog. I'm not sure if there was a default name for that, but yeah, we've both encountered numerous games where there's either a default or we change it. I prefer to go with the default.
Typically, if they have already entered in a name, I leave it alone. I'll leave it whatever the like Blythe in Fire Emblem.
But so that one I changed.
Yeah. Okay, I did not change it. Okay, that's what they wanted to name the character. I'll leave it at that.
I'm contradicting myself. So it depends. If the default name is, for me, I guess.
If it's Blythe, you're changing it.
Yeah, because that's a stupid name. That's so stupid. Blythe. Kind of.
So what did you change it to?
Carthage.
Carthage? Okay. All right.
Most of the times, like especially in Monster Hunter, like every single Monster Hunter character I make, their name is Carthage.
Carthage.
And they always have like really red hair, really dark skin, like really red eyes.
Like Carnage or
no Carthage.
I know, but if you looking at like comic books, Carnage is all red.
I just like the sound of the name Carthage. Okay. It's also used to be a civilization or a city, city of Carthage or civilization, whatever.
Something,
it was. I forgot what it was. And it used to be like a warry type nation, city, whatever. So like multiple reasons. I named one of my characters in my game
Carthage.
Carthage. So one of the warlords that you play as is called Carthage. So it's just a name that I really like.
Okay, I have one of those.
Yeah,
I have one of those as well. It's Pilgrim.
Pilgrim.
There's actually a little it's more of an inside joke with a lot of some of my other friends. If you've ever watched on YouTube, there's a YouTube video of John Wayne where he says the word pilgrim in one movie at least 75 times. And the entire it's just a montage of him saying pilgrim, but it is the funniest thing I've seen in a very long time. So that name just kind of stuck with me. So typically if I'm entering a name, it's Pilgrim.
Yeah. You know, now that I think about it, I think Zelda's probably the only exception where even when I fill in my name, I'm always calling myself Link. Like, for whatever reason.
It doesn't even matter.
No matter every single Zelda game, like Skyward Sword, whatever it is, and they change, they refer to you as whatever name you put in, I always say Link. I don't know why I do that. I guess I just like the character Link, and I think the name is kind of cool, right?
Yeah. I was actually, a little backstory, I wanted to name my first son Lincoln, and I was going to call him Link, but denied.
Why not just Link? Why Lincoln?
I liked Lincoln because I like Abraham Lincoln. I think I like the name, and I think
that's the last name.
Not necessarily. There are first names Lincoln.
Sure.
But I could call him Link, and he would be Link.
I'm cool with both.
All right, but his name is Elijah. So
Elijah's good too.
You know how that went.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, those are all good things. I want to add a little spin to this question.
Okay, all right.
Just a quickie.
Do it to it.
Because typically, right, when you have the choice of naming your character, you almost always have the choice of choosing your gender, right?
Mm-hmm.
I almost exclusively roll lady.
Ladies, okay.
What do you do when you have a gender choice?
It doesn't. Depends on what they look like. If I'm able to really customize, I generally stick with the male character. But if I like the look of the female character, I'll go with female. There are many RPGs. It's either one. It never matters.
I pretty much always go exclusively ladies.
Yeah. And what's funny is how you said you design your characters with red hair, red eyes. I go like...
Oh, not all of them.
Okay, all right.
Only Carthage.
Only
I have
Carthage.
Many characters I have in my back pocket. But Carthage, yeah, they got to have, the red color is like a symbolic thing.
Okay. And with me, it's like pale skin. Like I like cave creatures, things like Gollum type figures. Yeah. So that's generally what I do. I don't know why. I just...
A little bit of a sewage green hair.
Yeah, it's always like these slimy looking characters.
I do that for the first time I played through Dark Souls. Yeah, my character was just ugly.
I think if you play Dark Souls, that's kind of like a rite of passage where you have to make an ugly character.
Yeah. And like if I have a build in mind for Dark Souls, any of the Dark Souls games, like if I'm like, I want to make a witch kind of character that dabbles in pyromancy, so I'm like, yeah, she's gonna be like old, like you could change the age of the character, nice and wrinkly. I'm like, she's old, she's thin, she's just got wrinkles, no muscle, and she's just got big giant disformed face, nose, warts. If they ever allow warts.
Allow warts.
In Dark Souls. I want to make real witches.
He needs a warty character.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the question. Now for some upcoming RPGs. I think we mentioned this last week. I don't know why we mentioned it last week, but Labyrinth of the Witch is kind of a not an isometric, but it's a bit graphic dungeon crawling roguelike. Really, I'd love to play this. I like the look of this game. Then we have Pokemon on November 15th. That's just kind of like everybody's playlist.
Yeah, I think most people will be playing that.
And I'm actually kind of surprised that there are a lot of games coming out at or around the 15th, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's another big game. A little RPG-ish, mostly Metroid-y-ish.
I don't know what you're talking about. Is it on my list here?
It's made by EA. Nope.
Okay.
Not on the list.
Let's move on here.
We will move.
All right. November 19th, Munchkin, Quack Quest.
Labyrinth of the Witch, really?
Okay, so it looks like it's a mobile game, but it doesn't look like that on the Switch.
Is this still a roguelike?
It could be. I'm not sure what that is. I have not seen the video you're showing me here. But then, yeah, November 19th, Munchkin Quack Quest. This is an action RPG. It looks really, really fun. And then I'm really excited about this one. November 20th. I think you've played it. Children of Morta.
Yeah. I'm playing that on PC.
And you like it?
Fantastic. Play it. It tells the story of a family.
Okay.
Rather than of an individual character. You start off as one character, but you are the father of a family, and the family's quite big. There's I don't know, like 3-4 kids. There's an uncle. There's the grandmother, and I don't know. I can't remember if there's a grandfather or not. But and you actually kind of. Your family grows by having family members that were distant. They kind of return back. So they kind of take, I think, in every family member, not all of them, but all the major ones are playable. Mm-hmm. And the game is basically a isometric Diablo, but in 2D. Absolutely fantastic. It's an action RPG. There's, I don't think that there are random drops other than like gold and health and stuff like that, but there are randomly generated environments, and some parts of these environments will have chests, loot, stuff like that, and within those you will acquire random gear that will give you unique abilities, kind of like the Binding of Isaac.
Okay.
Where for that run you have that ability for you until you can make it through the entirety of that run, and the run is generally based on 4 levels of that environment, and at the very end it's a boss fight, and once you finish that boss fight you complete that environment, and then you can move on to the next section.
So definitely a roguelike type of game.
And if you die, you get teleported back to your home. Your character's fine, but the gear that you acquired on that run is gone.
Okay.
But you do get to keep the gold, and I think there's one other asset that you can keep that you can then spend for progression.
Okay.
Stat progression, leveling.
So you could potentially make it through the next run.
Yeah, and every run that you're doing, the experience you gain stays with you.
Okay.
And the gold that you acquire stays with you as well. So you're accumulating these things, and then as you're doing run after run, you're always making progress, but you have to start from the last major section.
But that's okay. I appreciate that in a roguelike where your runs and your death in runs isn't so detrimental. There's actual progress being earned there. I like that.
Yeah, and the big thing with each of the family members is that every family member plays like a different class type. So there's the father, who's the sword and board. There's the older daughter that is the archer. Mm-hmm. There is the young son who is he's like the dual wield dagger DPSer type character, dodgy as well. There's the oldest son who is like a monk. All about the fists.
The fisticuffs.
Yeah. So there's like every character does have like different gameplay mechanics. And another cool thing that they did with the skill tree system is as you level up the different skills for your characters, because they're leveling up, you get a talent point or a skill point, whatever it is that they call it, and then you sort of build up your character. It's not overly complex, but as you unlock the next tier within a certain character, there's a passive that you can put a point into that applies to the whole family.
Oh, wow.
So the family gets buffed stronger. So even though you're enhancing like the father, the daughter and the sons will also get enhanced if you're putting points into it. So it also feels like collectively as a family, you're leveling up. And also when you're not doing character specific leveling up, when you're spending your gold to do the bigger meta progress, you're leveling up the family itself. Okay. So you can increase the family's damage. You can increase the family's crit rate, crit chance, etc.
I like it.
Yeah. It's a really, really good...
I actually might be getting this, Children of Morta, over Pokemon.
Yeah. I would say it's probably going to be a better, more solid experience over Pokemon, and it's co-op.
It's co-op. Bingo bango.
Yep.
Again,
It's good. It's real good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
so that's what we have coming up next week. I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but I do want to kind of go over this last remaining topic here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it. Okay. So, what games are you looking forward to that are coming out here? Just a kind of general consensus here. I can go over my list if you'd like to think about it a little bit.
Yeah, go over your list.
All right. Number 1, Trials of Mana. We kind of went over that. That's a
good
game
one.
I really, really want. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
Oh, yeah.
I have never played the original.
Yeah.
So this would be my first time through. I really didn't want to get into a 100+ hour game.
Why that isn't your number one, I have no clue.
This isn't really a list and ranking.
Okay.
Okay. This is just kind of games I thought of and I just jotted them down.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this would be my first playthrough, my first soiree with Xenoblade Chronicles. And I hope they come out with a collector's edition because I will certainly buy it. I missed out on the collector's edition for the Wii version. But that's okay. I would certainly buy it here. A game called Eastward. This is a game developed by Chucklefish.
Ooh.
I'm not sure if they developed it or if they published it. Okay.
Yeah, Chucklefish does make a lot of good games on Switch.
Yeah, so this is kind of a pixel action RPG. Very much reminds me of Sword of Mana, but in the modern... Secret of Mana, but with a modern aesthetic.
Wow.
It's got a lot of anime-inspired cutscenes. But yeah, Eastward is definitely on my list. I have no idea when this game is coming out, but I want it.
Chrono Trigger vibe.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Chrono Trigger.
Oh, I've seen this game before. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Eastward is one of them.
Ignore the Chrono Trigger because it's more action oriented.
Yeah, it's not turn-based at all. Right, so another game I'm looking forward to is a game called Chained Echoes. This was a kickstarted game. I don't really back that many games up.
Yep.
But this was one that really, really caught my eye.
Yeah, 2D.
Yeah,
mechs.
It's got mechs in it. It's got airships. It's 16-bit.
Yeah.
It is turn-based. Like I said, it really hit all the nostalgia for me.
There's not enough RPG sprite-based games with mechs in it.
Well, you seem to have a thing for the mechs.
I like mechs.
You like mechs?
When mechs are done well.
Okay.
There was a really cool Super Nintendo RPG. What was it called?
With mechs?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't.
Not Mech Assault.
You make mechs basically. You make robots. It was basically a make your own robot RPG.
No, that sounds
and you acquire
bananas.
Parts for it. It looks visually. It looks like it almost looked like a Secret of Mana kind of art style to it. But it was you're constructing robots, and your robots are what actually go out and fight. And from what I remember, I think it was like an action combat system rather than a turn-based combat system.
Okay, we'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I forgot the name is going through me right now, but yeah, that was something interesting.
Okay, so yeah, Chained Echoes, Kickstarter game coming to the Switch like in 2022, so far away. And then another one is called Blue Protocol. Blue Protocol is a Bandai Namco coming out, and I don't think they have a release window, but it is an MMO. It is an anime-inspired MMO. I think it looks fantastic.
It does look fantastic. I looked at the trailer and some of the gameplay.
Yeah, and there's more gameplay now than there used to be. So, I mean, I don't think there's a release time expected for it, but yes, Blue Protocol. So, yeah, it's a Super Nintendo game called Robotrek.
Robotrek. So I was a little wrong on it being action. It is a turn-based game, but yeah, I totally remember playing this. Once again, emulator type stuff. I was looking for like really weird off-the-cuff kind of RPGs, and this was another one that I got into, and it was like very different because You are building, you're collecting parts. It's like an RPG top-down view of things, and then you have a robot, and your robot's actually doing all the fighting for you. And you can build the robot, you can customize it. As we're seeing here, I'm kind of like trying to fast forward it. So this is like another one of those weird out there games, and there were multiple build a robot. I think this game started sort of this little niche set of RPG games of building robots, and I think a lot of them were tied to Nintendo console and may have been like a Nintendo or second party or third party Nintendo semi-exclusive type of series. Like I think called Robotech or this one's called Robotrek.
But it was always Robo something, maybe?
Something, I think. Okay. But yeah, someone's probably going to remember this in Discord later at some point. But yeah, that Blue Protocol game, that trailer looks good. It looks like Tales of Anime, but with open world.
Open world.
Yeah. The fact that the character could jump from a higher elevation in some city-like environment down to a lower one seamlessly. Yep, that's exactly what I want.
Now, I don't know if this is coming out for the Switch, but I mean, I can only dream.
Yeah.
I can only dream. Now, do you have anything on your list?
Yeah. You said a couple of them, which is Trials of Mana and Xenoblade Chronicles. Those I'm definitely looking forward to.
Sure.
I've already beaten Xenoblade Chronicles, so I'm looking forward to that.
Humble brag. Well, it's cool. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I can only beat the game so many times.
Right.
I played through it twice.
Sure.
Not all the way.
And that's pretty impressive, beating that game twice times.
It's so good. But besides Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, besides those, I am totally looking forward to Tales of Arise.
Arise.
Probably not going to make it to the Switch, but might make it to the Switch. Who knows? It's running the Unreal 4 engine, so that can scale to the Switch. There's been plenty of Unreal games that are on Switch. Totally looking forward to that. And those probably another one that I mentioned at some point. I can't remember.
Okay.
But let's just stick with that.
Sounds good. And actually, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Yeah. Quite an action-packed episode. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you to everyone who sent in their questions and comments. Keep them coming. Remember, you can listen to each show every week at switchrpg.com, or you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you listen on an app, please give us a rating and review. We want to climb up those charts on those platforms, so your support would be amazing. And finally, you can head over to switchrpg.com for all your RPG needs for the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, see you around.
Bye.